Hello, I'm Kevin King, co-host of One More Turn, and welcome to a Momentary Pause, a one-on-one interview with some of today's brightest and most intriguing game developers. This week I'm speaking with Michael Townsend, the driving force of Doublespeak Games, developers of A Dark Room and Gridland. Michael's work portrays itself as minimalistic in appearance and often complicated and at times overwhelming in its gameplay. Yet the style of both games never leaves one frustrated, crafting a delicate balance of difficulty and challenge, all while leaving a powerful effect on the player with their stories and themes. I want to thank you again for coming on the air with us today, Michael.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. So stylistically, I would say your games are best described as minimalistic in their color scheme and presentation. A dark room is made of basically just text and some light figures with some black text on a white screen. Gridland uses some splashes of colors, but its main colors are black and white, mostly in the background though. You know, I want to ask you, why do you think you choose these two main colors as your main palette? What is it about black and white that translates to an engaging and an absorbing gaming experience? You know, Simply put, why black and white?
Short answer, because I like it. Long answer, I kind of fell into it a little bit. A Dark Room was fashioned after Candy Box, which was also sort of a black on white, really simplistic um, experience that grew as you played. And the reason for those games, both in using black and white, is empty space plays a really, really important role because those games tell you that things are going to grow, that you never really know what the game's going to look like, a half an hour from now. And empty space is very, very important because every little empty spot of the screen is somewhere that something else could go that could change the way you experience the game and the direction that things go. And so white and black is really useful because white is just empty. It's just, your page is white by default. So, and I mean, what are you going to do with white? You put black on it. Also in A Dark Room, it reinforces the narrative and the theme in that white and black plays really well into sort of that sparse wasteland kind of experience that I'm trying to build on with the words that I use. And I'm really big on using text not only as text but also as aesthetic. I think that that's really neat in what that you use when you use words not just to convey meaning but also to convey sort of some sort of an atmosphere. Gridland, Gridland, I wasn't really shooting for the same aesthetic, though I tried to make it look a little bit like 8 Art Room just for branding. Um, in that case, it's honestly more laziness on my part. I'm not a graphic designer by trade, and I do what I can. You'll notice that pixel art in Gridland is not exactly professional level, but going with the sort of simple color palettes, white on black, it makes it easier for me and it gives me a sort of framework that I can build on that's not too taxing.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense. It's yeah, the graphic design is the hardest part.
Oh,
You've got
it
to play
takes
your
me
strengths.
forever, man. I can build game systems in my brain in no time, and I'm a pretty good programmer, but you give me 8 frames of simple animation to draw, and it takes me half the damn day.
Get that Gary Kitchens game maker has all of
No, I just need to find friends that are good at that stuff.
that. Well, moving on, another major component of your games is that they attempt to kind of spread the attention span of the audience to these, at least in my experience, to incredibly thin lengths. A dark room has a person bouncing from screen to screen, keeping a fire lit, managing inventory, and the townspeople's duties, and so much more. It's a lot of screen management there. Gridland is almost asymmetrical in its presentation. Sure, it has this match-three puzzle style of gameplay, but you also have to keep an eye out for a health bar. You kind of want to actually watch what's going on at the top of the screen, where all the action's happening. And I'm curious, how do you actually beta test the limit to people's attention spans in your games? And is there a limit that maybe you found that you think a limit that you have found in testing people's attention spans? Once it's pulled so many ways.
I haven't
And
hit a limit yet, though that doesn't mean that there isn't one, or that maybe I have hit it and I don't know. I mean, I think that it's probably the reason that I do that. It's probably a symptom of the way that I design games, because usually a game concept comes to me like a mashup. It's like, well, what if I, do a match three survival game, and then you end up with the components of both, which usually is okay because as video game players, at least if we've been playing video games for a reasonable amount of time, you're familiar with the kind of basic vocabulary of gaming, right? Like you see a match three game, you kind of know how that works. You see a survival game, you kind of know how that works. And so you can use those bits as components just to create something else, and it doesn't usually overwhelm people. Um, though I do have to test, and I do test as much as I can without professional testing resources. I mean, if you ask my girlfriend, she'll tell you that she's sick of my games because I make her play them. Um, yeah, for as soon as they're playable, she's got to play them, and I don't think she usually even plays the finished product. She's usually burnt out by the time it's done. But
Is
I
she a
do, I
gamer
do.
as well? Is she a gamer? Is she like as maybe as intense in the game as you might be?
I'm not sure. Yeah, she plays games probably as much as I do these days. She came into it a little bit later in life, but she's latched onto it, which is good because I don't think she'd tolerate me if she didn't.
Well, it's funny because like I'm playing them, and whenever I see this kind of all this kind of going on at the same time, to me it always speaks to like how we kind of live our lives today online. You know, you have to have your attention span split like 10 different ways just to function in today's world. And
I
I wonder if your work is sort of an outcome of that.
I think Eight Arc Room absolutely. That entire idle game genre definitely came out of sort of internet culture and the way that we manage our time these days. I mean, who would have ever thought that a game that you played in 5-minute increments every few minutes in a browser tab over the course of a day or two would have worked? Like that's such a weird concept. Though I suppose it was kind of predicted by things like Tamagotchis. People love those damn things. Same idea though, right? I mean, it's kind of a similar concept. Um, the great thing about that is, like I was talking about empty space, you've also got empty time. And Gridland didn't really push these buttons, but that was definitely one of the goals of 8 Arc Room, was that you certainly weren't playing it all the time, but I'm hoping that you're thinking about it all the time. And in those downbeats between when you're actually interacting with the game, I'm hoping that you're churning over in your brain the world and what's going on and what you're going to do next time you get to it. And you should be thinking about it. It should be consuming every waking hour.
Yeah, you're almost strategizing in those off moments on what you're going to do once you're inside of it, once you're back into the game. You know, like when you're not playing it, you're thinking of your salvaging your salvaging strategies.
And hopefully wondering what's going on, because I was hoping, I mean, the intent was to sort of generate a mystery that the player was living within that would be gradually revealed to them as the mechanics expanded, so did the understanding of the game world. I hope. I mean, maybe that's all obtuse and nobody thought that.
No, no, we Jim and I discussed it on the show. So yeah, no, we thought it. We have two. We're two test subjects that thought it.
That's good. Test subjects are few and far between. I mean, I've got friends that I say play my games, but it's extremely unreliable. People aren't reliable unless you pay them, and up until recently, I haven't been able to afford to pay anybody.
Well, you mentioned it before. You know, the kind of limitless space of a dark room, and you know, your initial two releases here. You know, speaking to kind of limitless space, your initial two releases here have been both browser based and both free. You know, both I would add also buck the trend of most browser games by offering save functions. You know, I think something that's often associated with paid game fare. You know, is there a specific reason you offer your work for free, and how does offering them to everyone basically with a computer inform how you develop? You know, and why give the save option? Lastly, here.
It's partly philosophy and partly, I guess, comfort. Philosophically, I'm a big fan of the web browser as a platform. I think that as an open platform for developing and releasing software, it's unmatched. You can make something once and it plays everywhere on every device, anytime, by anybody, and that speaks to me. I like that a lot. I don't like locking down to a platform, and the technology is inherently open. Like when you deliver JavaScript to a web browser, that code can be read by whoever's playing it. if you wanted to on 8 Room, you could go in and you could view the source code that made that game work. And that's one of the major reasons. I really wanted people with 8 Room to get into the source code and play around and to see how it functioned and to maybe try and build something of their own afterwards. Yeah, the open web and software development and computer literacy are big things. They're things that I'm very much interested in. I think they're really important. So
Well, can
that's one reason.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That's one reason. The other reason is because I'm extraordinarily familiar with programming there. I mean, as a profession, that's what I do. I build web applications. So to get the time it takes me to get from concept to prototype to product in a web browser is significantly lower than it would be if I was writing a platform specific.
Okay. And has that, I don't know if you've ever developed for anything that was non-Java or non-browser before, but does it inform your design? I mean, do you just feel kind of limitless in what you can do?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's JavaScript, HTML, CSS are technologies that I am extraordinarily comfortable with. So I can build pretty much anything pretty quickly in those technologies. If I was writing in, Objective-C for iPhone, it would take me a lot longer, and I would struggle a lot more. There'd be a lot more time spent trying to figure out how to do things.
Yeah.
Why add save functionality? That's one of the questions you asked. Why add save functionality? Basically because both of the games that I built are too big to play in one sitting. And if I didn't offer save functionality, no one would ever finish them. And I want people to finish them because I built them. And I want people to play them. And the save functionality doesn't cost me anything. It's not server-based save functionality. It's entirely browser-based saves. So it's not costing me anything, so I may as well offer it.
You know, the success, I would say, of A Dark Room was probably, I don't know if this is a fair assessment, but it was boasted a little bit by Amir Ali Rajan, when he ported it to iOS. And he's crafted a prequel now with the same basic engine with Ensign. How do you feel about someone else taking the worlds you built and kind of layering their own stories over them? Do you have any input on Ensign? What are your your general feelings about someone reappropriating your work?
I think it's awesome. I mean, like I said, I'm a huge believer in the open web and in the freedom of information and open source software and all of that sort of thing. I think it's great. I mean, I throw something out there and it can be picked up by anybody who can iterate on it and do something of their own with it. And that's amazing. It's just the impact that you can make that way is so much higher than it is if you say, this is the way it is and it won't be touched and nobody else can change it. Then you make a blip and people like it and then it's gone. But if you allow it to integrate itself into internet culture and into popular culture, then it could linger forever. And it's so cool to see your own work through someone else's eyes, and that's what you get when you let somebody else build something on your work. You see how they saw it, and it's never the way you saw it, which is really, really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, that's a good place to stop right there. I'm curious, Michael. What's next for you and Doublespeak Games? Where can people find you online?
Well, you can always find me at doublespeakgames.com. You'll find the games there. There's a link to the blog where you'll see stuff going on. It's kind of quiet right now because I'm on vacation, but I built an interesting little 2-player strategy game in my spare time that I need to polish up and release because I think it's kind of cool. An iOS port of Gridland is actually in the works with revamped graphics and sound and all that jazz, so that'll be good. Hopefully I can make some money on that one. That'll allow me to spend more time building games. I've got another one in the conceptual phase that hopefully I can start working on with my friends at Rule 2 Productions in the next little while. We're going to hammer that one out at the party tonight, actually.
Oh, work! You don't even get New Year's off. You just work through New Year's, huh?
Well, you call it work, man. No, this is my hobby at the moment.
Well, great. And then, can people follow you on Twitter, or do you have a Patreon at all?
Yeah, my Twitter account is @continuities. It's just my personal account. I created one for Doublespeak, but I don't tweet there. It's just so that nobody else can have it.
Planting your flag.
That's right.
Well, thank you again, Michael. Thank you for coming on the show.
Hey, no worries. Thanks for having me.